Excellent. Thanks, Carter. Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here talking about an actual football game that's going to happen this Saturday, or Sunday, excuse me, this Sunday night. We've been really blessed over this past winter and spring. We've had great enthusiasm for this game. We are up to over 42,000 season tickets, which is the second most we've ever sold. We sold out all our student tickets as well. It's going to be an incredible environment. We have done a lot of work this past year with our in-game operations stuff that we hope that everybody enjoys. Put a big emphasis on that. And just making sure that this is going to be not only a loud crowd, but one that's going to help the Hurricanes move forward. And I think you see as you came around here, the emphasis that our marketing folks have put on wearing orange to help be a part of the environment for this Sunday's game. So really excited about that, excited about the start of the season for our women's soccer team, 3-1. Volleyball starts this weekend against Indiana and Ohio State. So a lot of great things going on here at the University of Miami right now. A lot of things going on in intercollegiate athletics. So instead of me taking this down a couple of different corridors, I'll just open it up for questions. And again, thank you guys for all the great work that you do on behalf and covering the Miami Hurricanes. It's very, very important to us, and we hope that we reciprocate back to you and give you the type of information you need to be able to do your job.
Yeah,
So,
with 42,000 season tickets, you said 42.
yeah.
So with that out, you can reasonably assume that every crowd's going to start with at least a 5 this year. With 8 home games, how critical is that?
I think it's critical in a number of ways to show how the program has continued to rise over Mario's 4 years here, and our emphasis on making sure that the environment here is one that people want to come to games, be a part of the Hurricane family. So yes, I think that there's a great opportunity for every crowd to be over that number, and we're excited. That's why we put that emphasis on the things we're going to do inside the game, because it's one thing to sell a ticket to an event, but it's another thing to make sure the event is something that people want to come back to. Not only the product on the field, which we can control a bit, from that perspective, but we want to make sure the things we can control are under our purview, and we're doing the right things to keep people coming. So again, these 4 home games in a row are going to be a great test. I don't know what the over-under is on the amount of rain we'll get on some of those games, but I think you've all been in South Florida long enough to know that that'll probably happen. But we're excited about it. And I think the great work that Legends has done, our ticket sales operation, our marketing operation, that's got us to a point right now where we're standing here right now really excited about the movement forward.
Dan, you said Barrow's 4 years continues to rise. What do you see about that? What do you like about that? What the program, to the football program, is headed?
Well, I think that Mario's created this football program now in year 4 really in his image, from the inside out, offensive and defensive lines. Those are things that are the cornerstones of successful football programs. We've had great quarterback play, great skill play. I think it's all coming together right now, and I think he feels very, very comfortable as he gets ready to take his team into this game against an incredible opponent with Notre Dame. But I think he has, as he's looked at the team from the spring practice through summer and through fall practice, he knows that there are players here now who understand the way he wants to play, how Shannon wants to play on offense, the way Corey has brought in his defense. I think all of those things have lined up here right now to give the head coach a really good feeling that moving forward for this year, we have a great opportunity in front of us, and the horses to be able to do that.
You're talking a lot about trajectory with season ticket sales and success on the field last year. Are you seeing a similar trajectory with booster support and giving to the athletics here? And is there anything you can share in that regard?
Well, last year, the year that ended on May 31st, our fiscal year, we raised more money than we had in the previous 4 or 5 years. It was a high watermark, okay? I think the highest number might have been in 2017 or 18. I might have the years wrong there, but that was when there was a real push to raise money for the indoor practice facility. So outside of that focus for one particular item, this past year was one when our donors were very, very good to us. And I think they were able to see off the success of last year, how our program is moving forward. So they bought in, and they're a big part of what we need to do.
Dan, speaking of moving forward, the ACC settled with FSU and Clemson. Have there been talks already about, the future with Miami, with the conference, or is that something that's kind of right now on the back burner?
Look, we have said before, and we'll say again, we're incredibly proud and happy to be within the Atlantic Coast Conference. We're glad Clemson and Florida State were able to work out their differences to create the conference, a strong conference. Because what we've done over the last couple of years is something that I think is not been talked about enough, and what a leader the ACC has been in differential revenue distribution. A lot of people talk about that, but the ACC did it. They did it with the success incentives that were in place last year. They've done it now based off of that settlement moving forward with increased dollars based on viewership. The teams that are being watched and carrying the brand of the ACC forward are going to have an opportunity to make increased revenue. When you're talking about conferences which have always been slicing that pie equally, years and decades of conferences doing that kind of work, now you have just this slight move to the side where there is some incentive for success. There is incentive to be able to schedule great, so that you can have a marquee opponent that can get on an over-the-air network that can then give you a higher viewership number and you can make more dollars. So I look at that as all being very positive types of things that came out of the settlement. But hey, we're excited about the opportunity to compete for ACC championships in all of our sports.
Dan, I think there was a report about a week ago about possible college football playoff expansion, even more teams. How do you feel about the number where it's at now, or would you want expanded numbers?
I think as a league, we came together under the, as has been widely reported, the 5-11 circumstance. But as things move forward and there are other opportunities to look at different models, I think until something is etched in stone and the commissioners agree to it, we should continue to talk about it, because there are positives and negatives to each of those types of things that have been talked about. We get together as athletic directors probably sometime in September. The date hasn't been signed yet or assigned yet. So we'll talk about that, I'm sure. That'll be a focus of the conversation, because I think the deadline, if I'm remembering correctly, is sometime in December, where they have to pull together how next year's playoff is going to work, or it'll stay the same if they don't meet that deadline. But I think a lot of conversation this fall will go through that.
Dan, can you provide an update on the Green Tree practice fields, the indoor facility, an update and maybe a timeline of what's to come?
It's all on schedule. That's what I got from my facility guys. So, it'll be late spring, early summer next year to be able to get in there. But everything has been on time. We've had minimal disruptions from the standpoint of being able to utilize the indoor facility and the outdoor field. The field that you see outside, the Green Tree field outside, is where the permanent 100-yard field will be. And of course, we were very fortunate. We did some things for our women's soccer team to allow them to have a practice area, but also football to be able to practice at the Cobb Stadium site as well. So kudos to our grounds team. They've done a phenomenal job of making sure both of those places are in great shape to be able to play for our student athletes. We put new lights on Cobb Stadium and Green Tree, new LED lights. So it's a much better circumstance out there than it was a year ago. But the project with the weight room and the expanded deal on time, everything's moving forward.
Any update on the football operations center? Anything you could tell us with that?
No, I think that, in our conversations with the campus, we want to make sure to get this thing done and get this thing done right, and then we can kind of move on to other things that could happen into the future.
Yeah, with the House settlement money, I guess, what are the conversations, going up and down, up to the university president and then talking to, the coaches about how that money is getting divvied up, how it's being utilized? What have those conversations been like?
Well, I think that you all know that President Echeverria is a huge supporter of the athletic program. So our ability to utilize that $20.5 million and how we spread it around. We've kind of put everything into those buckets. He is certainly given us the thumbs up to move forward in that direction. And then other opportunities that can come forward for our student athletes in different ways outside of that money is also something that we work together with our partners at Legends and other folks out into the community who want to utilize our student athletes' name, image, and likeness. So all that's going along very well.
How much of it is a conversation, like on a relatively recurring basis? Like, does Mario or Jay Lucas come to you and say, hey, I need, X amount of money? Like,
well, they're coaches, of course they do. Yes. Yeah, no, they do. And I think that we've kind of settled in where we are now. We're starting the process to move forward into the following year. So those conversations will be taking place shortly.
Dan, just how broadly do you feel about the way Jay has, assembled the roster from a clean sheet, basically? Trish had to redo almost her entire roster. JD was a game from Omaha. Soccer's off to a very good start. It's got started a while. Just broadly, how good do you feel about where everything is right now?
I feel really good. I do, because I know the coaches have put a lot of work in, and I think that you don't have to look real far. You can look at what Mario has done with our football program and taken it step by step by step back up into a nationally relevant team. I mean, we're ranked in the top 10 in the country preseason. That's pretty good, guys. I mean, that's a positive. So that wouldn't have happened 4 years ago. All right, so you see that, and I see JD in baseball, how he's been able to, after the first year, understand a little bit more about what he really wants that program to look like. And of course, Trish and Jay, look, in basketball, it's a completely different game than the other two. I mean, you can flip your programs around on a dime. Now, I don't know a whole lot about the guys that have come in, because we have no returning people on our men's basketball team and 2 returners on our women's basketball team. So it is going to be a little bit like Christmas morning, watching our basketball teams. But they all come from really great, the transfers come from really good programs where they were successful. The trick with basketball is how they're going to blend together. And I think that that's one of the things that, in watching both Trish and certainly Jay for the first time, how they're communicating with their players and how those players are communicating with our administrators and our other student athletes and how they're blending in together. Those have all been very, very positive. So if you take that without a dribble of a basketball or a shot, I think that they're off to a really good start, but we'll see come November.
The ACC payouts for viewership, big numbers in viewership. Do you have a projection on what that number could add potentially for?
They tried to do that, and once you dug into the numbers, you saw that it was really wasn't valid, because the way it'll work is 35% of that pool will be done this year, okay, and then 25%, and then 15%, if that adds up to 100, okay? Some, declining number away. So if you have a great year this year, which, we have some really good opportunities on national television, on big over-the-air networks, our number could be really, really good. I mean, last year we had the Florida game. That was a good number. But after that, there wasn't a whole lot of big opportunities for us. We have 2 this year. So it will be more if history kind of keeps on, is any nod to how the future will be. We will get more revenue associated with that, just given our brand and how we've played over the last couple of years.
To that point, though, how kind of from what you said, just in terms of long-range budgeting, even it is kind of maddening. Like, the NBA is getting away almost entirely from getting some ratings. There's just no way of charting a lot of this stuff anymore in the streaming era. And like you said, it is. When you start taking that initial dive, you get very confused very quickly. How tough is that to accept that there is a lot of unknowns to that point?
Well, Tim, you probably have, and you've charted this and written about it. There's a lot of unknowns in our business right now from a lot of different areas. So the budgeting piece is just another one. It's just another one. And you have to be able to have good relationships with your institution, like we have here, because there could be years when you kind of thread that needle and you hit the budget right where it needs to be. There's going to be others where you might be a little bit short, might be a little bit over. So I think that we have a great relationship, and that's where the relationships come in, because they understand, our board understands, our university understands that there's a lot more X factors associated with athletics than maybe there were 10 years ago, even 8 years ago.
What's your relationship like? What can you say about Kane's connection, the collective, and the partnership, and moving forward in the past where they've been?
Well, I know that collectives from some of my colleagues did not get a really good. They're not looked upon favorably. We've had a great relationship with the Canes Connection, and we continue to have one. And I think we will. They're going to be a big part of what we do moving forward. So we're in a fortunate position. There are others around the country who also have great relationships with their collectives, because our collective wants to do one thing. They want to make the University of Miami better, and make our student athletes have the opportunity to do what they can in this space of name, image, and likeness.
You see the ACC going to a 9th game.
God, that was pretty good. That was only 14 minutes into the conversation. I lost that bet. It could. We really could. That's one of the things that we're going to talk about in September. Not only the college football playoff piece, but is it right for the Atlantic Coast Conference to go to 9 games? The real question might not be, is 9 games the right answer? But are 10 power conference games the answer? Do you need to write down and really kind of hold to the fact that you're going to play as a member of this league 10 Power 5 schools during the course, Power 4, Power 5 schools during the course of the season? That's important, because I could play a team within the ACC based on the scheduling run, someone who's not having a great year, or I could go out and maybe have an opportunity to play one of those teams in the other leagues that has an in-state rival within their conference. They're rivals within their conference, and they're looking for a Power 10 conference game, and we can have a great matchup. And it could be home and home, and it could be one of those games where you can get a high-level viewership that could help you along the way. So that's going to be something that we need to talk about, and that's going to be that, and the CFP formation conversations will happen the next time the ADs get together.
And that was kind of my next question. Like, this is maybe the biggest opening weekend in college football history, or certainly one of them, with all these games that have been put together. As conferences do go to those extra home games, these are extra games within the conference, do you see these big cross-conference games kind of falling by the wayside a little bit? Like, would Florida ever schedule Miami again?
It's a great question. I think that Florida has Florida State as they'll have 9 within the SEC, and they'll have Florida State. Would they want to play Miami? I don't know. That's a hard one for people who have in-state rivalries. Clemson and South Carolina, Georgia and Georgia Tech, Kentucky and Louisville. Those are going to be hard for them to go outside and create other great matchups. But there are a lot of schools: Auburn, Alabama, Mississippi State, Texas A&M. These are schools that they're inside the league, and they have that rival in their league, so they have the ability to go out and play another great rival or another great opponent to be able to help their strength of schedule, strength of record, and moving them forward as well. So more to come on that. I think scheduling has always been tricky, and we'll just have to continue to be even more vigilant with it as the opportunities change.
Let's do a couple more for Dan. Have you heard of, when you think about the FCS schools, the family's going to get a good check for coming here. Fans got a good chance to pass for coming here. Those schools need those games. And those opportunities are going to get harder and harder for those schools to find.
I think when you look at that, you play 12, and you're going to have 10 Power 5, Power 4 games. That leaves you 2 others. Most likely for those who are in a certain geographic area, those will be FCS games and a group of 5 game. That's kind of the formula that has been utilized over the last few years here, and certainly at other places that I've been prior to here, to be able to get that FCS, the group of 5, and then the really good out of conference, 1 or 2, 1 at home, 1 away in a given year. So you have 7 home games. That's the other thing. I mean, we have 8 home games this year. We have 6 home games next year. One of the things that myself and Dan Raven work on an awful lot is trying to get that smoothed out. We want to get to a point where we're playing 7 home games and 5 road games. That's really what the goal is. And we're getting close, but we're not there as of yet.
Dan, with baseball, have you determined how many scholarships will you allot to that sport?
Yeah, I believe the number in baseball for this current year is in the low 20s. Again, some of those numbers are, they fluctuate a little bit, given how people come in and how people go. That's why I can't give you a real number, but it's low 20s.
Is that what you envisioned for, you said this year, but
Yeah,
close to
I
that
think
number
it is.
moving forward?
And then as we look into the future, we have to make sure our participation rates and numbers are from male to female are in a good spot as well. But I think that if you need a circumstance in a year where you may need 1 or 2 more, and then the next couple of years you may need to be able to go back, you have the ability, I think, to do that.
Where do you stand? So conference championship games is kind of a conversation with potentially CFP expanding and regular season conference games expanding. Where do you stand? Are you passionate on either side of conference championship games continuing?
I think conference championship games have been incredible for the fans and be able to focus on that Saturday with all the conference championship games going on that weekend. That was a lot of fun. If the playoff expands and you have games that matter for the national championship on that particular Saturday, I think it's 50-50 at that point in time, because those are going to be important games. And how people and conferences go about putting their champion together, that'll be something that each conference does their own way. So I'm not that passionate about them. I like them, but I think there's also alternatives that we can look at.
Dan, 5 years from, look at all the change in college football in the last 5 years, or college sports. 5 years from now, if you could put in one rule to settle the dust a little, is there anything you would like to see happen?
Well, it would be easy to say we could love labor peace, to be able to look at it that way, but we're not there. We don't have our student athletes, under a circumstance where they are collectively bargaining. Okay, I would like to see something out of Washington to give the Power 4, the NCAA, some limited antitrust liability protection, because I think that would allow us to move forward without the threat of other lawsuits coming forward. That would have been something really cool to have about 8 or 9 years ago, because we would have been able to move forward to the world we are today, maybe a little bit more in a process-oriented way, rather than just having a lot of things dumped together.